Welcome back to our channel, your premier destination for the most explosive daytime television scoops and soap opera deep dives. Today is an absolutely beautiful day to plunge headfirst into the glamorous, treacherous, and utterly ruthless world of Los Angeles fashion and family warfare. Grab a comfortable seat, pour yourself a strong drink, and brace yourselves because the upcoming drama is about to shatter every single expectation you have. We are breaking down the absolute madness heading our way on your favorite screen. The stage is set for an inevitable, catastrophic collision of fate, where high-stakes consequences meet unforgivable betrayals in a spectacular display of soap opera fireworks. We are staring down the barrel of a week that will detonate the fragile peace across two major dynasties. A toxic confession is about to drop like a guillotine on a pristine marble floor, and a husband's wavering loyalty threatens to invite the ultimate, historic evil straight through the front door of his heavily guarded home. The grenade pins have been pulled, the safety locks are off, and the fallout will leave nothing but absolute devastation in its wake. Let us kick things off with the absolute disaster class in romance and self-sabotage currently being taught by Will Spencer. The morning after the night before is hitting Will with the relentless, crushing force of a runaway freight train. The sensory details of his regret are suffocating. He has just woken up in the beach house, his head pounding with a vicious hangover, only to find himself lying next to Melissa Dillon. This is not just a mistake. This is a fatal error in judgment. Dillon is the one woman guaranteed to permanently obliterate his chances with the love of his life, Elektra Forrester. The guilt is an immediate, physical weight on Will's chest. He can barely look at himself, let alone the woman beside him. Dillon, on the other hand, is radiating a smug, predatory satisfaction. Her calculated conquest is complete. She has successfully weaponized Will's vulnerability, his anger, and his intoxication to drag him into her bed. When she offers a cheerful, gloating good morning, Will can only respond with a groggy, sickening groan of pure regret. He knows instantly that he has crossed a line from which there is no easy return. He has played right into the hands of a woman who views him not as a partner, but as a prize to be won in a twisted game of dominance. But Will does not have the luxury of time to wallow in his self-inflicted misery, because his older brother is about to kick the door down and deliver a brutal, necessary wake-up call. Wyatt Spencer is stepping into the fray, and he is not pulling a single punch. Wyatt knows intimately the destructive power of a Spencer man's ego. He has lived through the chaotic cycle of waffling, betrayal, and regret. Wyatt corners Will, forcing the younger Spencer to look directly at the smoldering wreckage of his own life. Wyatt leans against the wall, crossing his arms, and forces Will to analyze the fundamental flaw in his approach to Elektra. Wyatt points out that Will has been acting out of pure, unadulterated entitlement, expecting Elektra to simply wait around while he wages physical wars with R.J. Forrester and drowns his sorrows in tequila and Melissa Dillon. Wyatt reminds Will that the Spencer name might buy power in the boardroom, but it buys absolutely nothing in matters of the heart. He challenges Will to drop the arrogant facade, to show genuine, raw vulnerability, and to prove to Elektra that he can be a man of substance, not just a boy throwing tantrums. Wyatt's words are a harsh, necessary mirror, reflecting the ugly truth of Will's recent behavior. It is this specific, piercing critique that ignites a desperate, flickering fire inside Will and propels him out the door. He must rectify his actions immediately. He must win Elektra back, no matter the insurmountable odds or the cost to his own pride. But as we all know in this ruthless town, the cost of a secret is always paid in public, agonizing humiliation. While Will is desperately trying to piece his fractured resolve back together, a nuclear bomb is detonating inside the pristine, glass-walled offices of Forrester Creations. Elektra Forrester is on the warpath. She has reached her absolute, definitive limit with Melissa Dillon's hovering, manipulative, and suffocating presence. The tension in the design office is thick enough to cut with a pair of fabric shears. When Dylan strolls into the room, she is carrying the smug, victorious aura of a woman who just spent the night wrapped in the sheets of the Spencer air. Elektra, sensing the shift in Dylan's demeanor, decides it is time to draw a permanent, uncrossable line in the sand. Elektra corners her supposed friend, her voice trembling with a mixture of heartbreak and fury. She demands boundaries, she demands respect, and she unequivocally demands that Dylan back the hell off from Will Spencer. But Dylan is no longer playing the role of the timid, supportive assistant. Dylan does not cower. Dylan does not back down. Instead, she squares her shoulders, flashes a chilling, predatory smile, and drops the confession that will shatter Elektra's world into a million jagged pieces. Dylan looks Elektra dead in the eye, her expression devoid of any remorse, and confesses that she just spent the night in Will Spencer's bed. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of this moment cannot be overstated. Dylan is weaponizing her physical intimacy with will to completely and utterly break Elektra's spirit. The air instantly leaves the room. The betrayal is absolute, cutting deeper than any corporate espionage ever could. Soap insiders and fans are already drawing chilling, accurate comparisons to the late, diabolical Luna Nozawa. Dylan's calculated cruelty proves she is playing a vicious game of winner takes all, and she has just played her ultimate trump card. Elektra is left physically reeling. Her head is spinning, her breath catching in her throat as the horrifying reality of Dylan's toxic, two-faced nature comes into full, undeniable focus. The friendship is dead, incinerated in the span of a single sentence. Dylan has proven that she will step over anyone, destroy any bond, and exploit any weakness to get exactly what she wants. Completely ignorant to the fact that Dylan has already detonated the bomb and salted the earth, Will Spencer marches directly into the line of fire. Fueled by Wyatt's pep talk, Will reaches out to Elektra, wearing his heart on his sleeve, desperately trying to make amends for his erratic behavior. He wants to apologize for the secrets, for the distance, for the chaos. He wants to prove that, despite everything, they belong together. But Will is walking blindfolded straight into a slaughterhouse. Elektra is already armed with the devastating, nauseating truth of his night with Dylan. She is not just heartbroken. She is humiliated, traumatized, and radiating a cold, unforgiving rage that could freeze the Pacific Ocean. When Will tries to patch things up with his earnest apologies, Elektra unleashes her fury. She had already told him she would never get back together with him, but this new, sickening revelation seals the vault forever. Will is forced to stand there, exposed and defenseless, and absorb the absolute, crushing humiliation of his own actions. The desperation in his voice shatters against a wall of pure ice. He tries his absolute best to rectify the situation, begging for a chance to explain, but the damage is catastrophic and irreversible. The burning, high-engagement question now is whether Will Spencer will finally accept this crushing defeat. Should he just give up on Elektra once and for all, or will this brutal rejection push him into an even darker, more reckless spiral of violence and despair? Across town, a completely different kind of psychological nightmare is unfolding at the beautiful, isolated Cliff House. Dr. John Finnegan is fighting a losing battle for his own sanity, and Steffi Forrester Finnegan is watching the walls close in on her marriage. The tension is suffocating as Finn drops by Steffi's office to deliver a vow of absolute, unwavering loyalty. He looks his fierce, protective wife in the eye and promises her that he is not going to pursue a relationship with his birth mother, the infamous Sheila. He swears that his loyalty lies entirely with Steffi, with Kelly, with Hayes, and with their beautiful life together. But there's a massive, terrifying problem that hangs in the air between them. Finn is not convincing. His voice lacks its usual steady conviction. His eyes dart away, betraying a soul-crushing, tearing internal conflict. He is a man divided, torn between the biological pull of the woman who gave him life and the fierce devotion to the woman who saved it. Steffi, whose survival instincts were forged in the fires of countless Forrester scandals and literal gunshots in dark alleys, instantly sees through the fragile facade. She realizes with horrifying, paralyzing clarity that her husband is lying to himself. He is psychologically cracking under the immense, relentless pressure of Sheila's emotional manipulation. The terror sets in for Steffi, cold and absolute. She is suddenly forced to weigh an impossible, agonizing choice that goes against every fiber of her being. Is the risk of keeping Sheila away actually destroying Finn's mind? Steffi begins to seriously worry about how risky it could be if they welcomed Sheila into their family. The mere thought is repulsive, a betrayal of her own trauma, but she is equally terrified of what happens if Finn completely breaks. To make matters infinitely worse, Dr. Taylor Hayes is watching this entire, tragic dynamic unfold from the sidelines. Taylor is not just a passive observer in this unfolding tragedy. She is a woman carrying her own heavy burdens and compromised history. As she watches Finn's psychological defenses crumble, Taylor's clinical objectivity is warring with her maternal instinct to protect Steffi at all costs. Taylor knows firsthand the seductive, destructive power of manipulation, having recently navigated her own scandalous, boundary-crossing affair with Deacon Sharp. She understands how easily a person can be swayed by the desperate pleas of someone they are tied to, whether by blood or by passion. Taylor's keen psychiatric eye picks up on the subtle, defeated slump of Finn's shoulders whenever Sheila's name is mentioned. She notices that Finn's stance on his birth mother is visibly, undeniably softening. Taylor sees the micro-expressions, the hesitation, the cracks forming in Finn's resolve. The foundation of the Finnegan marriage is shaking violently, and the epicenter of the earthquake is named Sheila. Speaking of the devil herself, Sheila is spiraling into a dark, obsessive, and highly dangerous madness. Alone in her dimly lit apartment, the silence is deafening, and her carefully cultivated patience has completely evaporated. She paces the floor like a caged, starving predator, her mind consumed by one agonizing, burning question. "Why won't you open your heart to me? Let me in," she asks herself aloud, her voice dripping with a toxic, volatile cocktail of deep sorrow and lethal frustration. She simply cannot comprehend why Steffi refuses to budge, why the Forrester heiress will not grant her the absolution she feels she is owed. Sheila's obsession with infiltrating her son's life, with holding her grandson Hayes, is reaching a dangerous boiling point, and she desperately needs an outlet before she explodes. In a shocking, unprecedented twist, Sheila takes her struggles to the one woman who matches her fierce, maternal intensity, Dr. Lee Finnegan. Sheila opens up to Lee, venting extensively about her agonizing struggles to get Steffi to accept her, pouring out her twisted version of a mother's love. This is a terrifying, highly combustible dynamic. Lee Finnegan is cold, intensely calculating, and fiercely, violently protective of her adoptive son. She has hidden Finn from the world once before to save him from Sheila. Why would Sheila confide in the woman she once tried to kill? And more importantly, what will he do with this explosive, intimate intelligence? Will he offer Sheila genuine, manipulative advice to steer her away from Finn? Or is she quietly gathering ammunition to permanently and legally neutralize the threat? The tension between these two fierce, unyielding matriarchs is palpable, electric, and their conversation could either prevent a massive disaster or ignite a brand new, bloody reign of terror in Los Angeles. As if Steffi's personal life was not chaotic and terrifying enough, the corporate battlefield is demanding blood, sweat, and tears. Steffi is set to face off with Hope Logan Spencer in a confrontation that promises to be nothing short of explosive and legendary. The grenade pin has been pulled on the Forrester versus Logan fashion war, and Hope is absolutely not backing down. Hope has declared open, unapologetic war, claiming she is finally where she is wanted, respected, and valued at Logan Designs, far away from Steffi's overbearing control. Steffi, fueled by the relentless, exhausting stress of the Sheila situation at home, is not about to let a rogue Logan disrespect her family's legacy or threaten Forrester Creations' dominance. When these two powerhouse women clash in the boardroom, the collateral damage will be immense, echoing through the halls of both fashion houses. Steffi is fighting a brutal war on two massive fronts, protecting her fragile husband from a psychotic, relentless mother, and protecting her billion-dollar company from an empowered, vengeful Logan. The pressure is mounting to astronomical levels. The stakes have never been higher, and someone is about to snap in a spectacular fashion. Will Steffi's unthinkable sacrifice save Finn or destroy her family forever? Next, the House of Forrester was built on the flawless, untouchable illusion of glamour, power, and absolute elegance. But a catastrophic collision of ego and high-stakes consequences is currently tearing that illusion to shreds. At the dead center of this impending disaster stands Ridge Forrester, a man whose unraveling is no longer just a whisper in the boardroom. It is a loud, undeniable, and visually jarring reality that is actively alienating the entire viewing audience. The inevitable reckoning is approaching fast, and the fallout threatens to permanently destroy the legacy of the man once universally revered as the suave, international fashion icon. We are witnessing the absolute destruction of a television legend. Love him or loathe him, there was a time when you simply could not ignore the magnetic, commanding presence of Ridge Forrester. He was the ultimate leading man, a titan of the fashion industry who commanded respect the moment he walked into a room. Today, that man is gone. In his place stands a bitter, unkempt, and deeply unlikable shadow of the former dressmaker, and the fans have finally reached their breaking point. The audience is staging a massive revolt against the current portrayal of Ridge Forrester. Viewers are flooding forums and social media with unprecedented levels of vitriol, declaring him the absolute most unlikable character on the entire canvas. This is not just a passing phase of viewer frustration. It is a fundamental rejection of what the character has become. The complaints are vicious, highly specific, and entirely justified, focusing heavily on a jarring aesthetic downfall that contradicts everything Forrester Creations is supposed to represent. Let us start with the most glaring, unavoidable issue, the catastrophic sartorial disaster that is Ridge Forrester's current wardrobe. Fans are absolutely ruthless in their assessment, boldly stating that Ridge looks like a homeless person. The word hobo is being thrown around with alarming frequency, and it is impossible to argue with the critics. The man is the chief executive officer of a multi-billion-dollar luxury fashion empire, yet he stalks the hallowed, glamorous halls of his own company looking as though he just returned from a grueling, 3-week wilderness excursion without access to running water. The visual dissonance is staggering. He is surrounded by the pinnacle of haute couture, yet he insists on wearing frumpy, ill-fitting camping clothes that look like they were pulled directly from the bottom of a donation bin. Fans are openly demanding that he stop wearing these ridiculous, outdoorsy outfits and put on something decent. This is not a fashion industry titan. This is a man who looks completely and utterly lost. The audience is practically begging the production team to intervene, with one critic bluntly stating that Ridge needs to take a damn bath because he simply looks dirty. This grisly, unwashed aesthetic is a massive miscalculation. There's a very distinct line between a sexy, rugged scruff and a total abandonment of basic hygiene, and Ridge has sprinted miles past that line. Old men who think this unkempt, rough look automatically translates to sex appeal are dead wrong. The fans have spoken, and their verdict is a masterclass in grooming mechanics. A little scruff can work, but it absolutely must be clean, neat, and trimmed incredibly close. Instead, Ridge is walking around with wild strays high on the cheek and overgrown patches low on the neck. It is a visual symphony of neglect. The audience is demanding that the character pay immediate attention to his wildly overgrown eyebrows. A man of Ridge's immense wealth and status can effortlessly afford a proper, weekly cleanup from a top-tier professional. The fact that daily maintenance is not being enforced on set is baffling to the viewers, who are forced to watch a supposed fashion god look like he has completely given up on himself. But the disastrous physical appearance is only the surface of a much deeper, far more toxic problem. Ridge's outward messiness perfectly mirrors his internal ugliness. He no longer acts like a visionary leader. He acts like a miserable, arrogant dictator. Every single time he appears on screen, he looks as though he would rather be absolutely anywhere else in the world than at the offices of Forrester Creations. His body language screams apathy, resentment, and a profound disdain for the very empire he claims to protect. This palpable misery is bleeding into every single interaction he has, transforming him into a deeply unpleasant presence. He does not converse with his family and colleagues. He undermines them. He talks down to everyone who crosses his path, wielding his authority not as a tool for inspiration, but as a weapon of condescension. He patronizes his children, dismisses his employees, and most egregiously, he continually disrespects his own wife. Brooke Logan, a powerhouse in her own right and a foundational pillar of the Forrester legacy, is constantly subjected to Ridge's relentless barrage of patronizing lectures. He undermines her opinions, dismisses her concerns, and speaks to her with a tone of arrogant superiority that is infuriating to watch. Fans are sickened by the way he treats the woman he claims to love. Brooke is currently fighting battles on multiple fronts, trying to salvage the family's reputation. Yet her own husband treats her like an incompetent subordinate rather than an equal partner. This toxic behavior exposes a massive, glaring hypocrisy that the audience can no longer tolerate. Ridge spends half of his screen time delivering pompous, self-righteous lectures about morality, boundaries, and family loyalty. He aggressively condemns the younger generation, judging Will Spencer's violent outbursts and demanding absolute perfection from everyone around him. Yet, this is the exact same man who recently marched into Spencer Publications and threw a brutal, unprovoked sucker punch at Bill Spencer. How can a man who solves his corporate grievances with physical violence dare to lecture anyone else about their behavior? How can a man who looks like he needs an immediate intervention with a bar of soap dictate the future of global haute couture? The hypocrisy is suffocating, and it is the primary reason why fans have turned on him so aggressively. He demands respect that he refuses to earn, and he enforces standards that he blatantly refuses to meet. The consequences of this unraveling are bound to be catastrophic. We are looking at a high-stakes corporate environment where perception is everything. Forrester Creations is currently locked in a vicious, escalating fashion war with the newly empowered House of Logan. Katie and Bill Spencer are aggressively capitalizing on every single weakness the Forresters expose. While Logan is building a sleek, modern, and highly publicized empire, Forrester is being led by a grumpy, unwashed patriarch who looks entirely disconnected from reality. Imagine the corporate optics. If a major fashion publication like Vogue or GQ were to walk into the CEO's office for a profile right now, it would be an unmitigated disaster. The press would devour him. The buyers would lose faith. The investors would panic. Ridge's refusal to maintain his appearance and his toxic, alienating attitude are actively endangering the family business at the exact moment they need to project absolute, unshakable strength. This is an inevitable collision of fate. Ridge cannot continue to operate this way without triggering a massive explosion. The tension is building to a boiling point. Will Steffy Forrester, who has already proven herself to be a ruthless and highly capable co-CEO, finally stage a corporate intervention? She cannot possibly allow her father to continue dragging the company's prestigious image through the mud. Steffy understands the power of optics better than anyone, and watching her father parade around in frumpy camping clothes while barking orders at the staff must be driving her to the edge. Furthermore, how much more of this condescension can Brooke Logan actually take? She has compromised her own values and fought her own family to stand by Ridge, only to be met with his smug, dismissive attitude. The fragile peace in their marriage is bound to shatter if Ridge does not drastically change his behavior. Brooke is a woman who commands respect, and if Ridge continues to treat her like an afterthought, she will inevitably seek validation and power elsewhere. The fans have drawn a hard line in the sand. They are absolutely refusing to accept this dirty, frumpy, miserable version of Ridge Forrester. The demand for a haircut, a beard trim, and a fundamental attitude adjustment is loud and clear. If the writers and producers do not execute a rapid, dramatic course correction, they risk permanently ruining one of the most iconic characters in daytime television history. The stage is set for a brutal awakening. Ridge is currently sitting on a throne of past glories, completely blind to the fact that his kingdom is actively turning against him. His ego is shielding him from the reality of his own decline, but that shield is about to crack. The fashion war with Logan is escalating. The internal family dynamics are fracturing, and the patriarch is completely asleep at the wheel, wrapped in a tragic flannel shirt. The impending drama will be explosive. Someone is going to have to look Ridge in the eye and deliver the brutal, unfiltered truth. Whether it is Steffi seizing total control of the company, Brooke walking out the door, or a rival like Bill Spencer publicly humiliating him for his catastrophic aesthetic downfall, a reckoning is coming. The days of the suave, untouchable dressmaker are dead and buried. What remains is a toxic, unraveling mess of a man who is desperately in need of a mirror, a razor, and a massive dose of humility. The high-stakes consequences of Ridge's behavior will reshape the entire landscape of Los Angeles. Every single insult he hurls, every condescending remark he makes to Brooke, and every day he shows up to work looking like a vagabond is another nail in the coffin of his legacy. The audience is watching with bated breath, waiting for the exact moment this arrogant facade finally collapses under the weight of its own hypocrisy. The collision is unavoidable, and when it happens, the fallout will be absolutely legendary.